Hello everyone, today I'm going to be doing a video where Mehdi Hasan was interviewed by Piers Morgan, and they're talking about the rhetoric that the Democrats and Biden have, and a lot of the points, well really just a couple points that Piers Morgan had are ridiculous points. Mehdi Hasan points them out and I want to show you guys those parts in the video. We're not going to go through the whole thing, of course, it'd be too long, but we're just going to go through some where I think Mehdi Hasan does really well at exposing the ridiculous arguments that Piers has against Biden and the Democrats' rhetoric. So we're going to start this off 1.5 speed. All right, let's go.
Not two sides.
When you say it's not two sides, but I played you a bunch of clips of people repeatedly calling him Hitler, I say to you, there's the two sides.
All right, so let me respond. Can I respond?
Yep.
Can I respond? Okay, let me respond. Donald Trump ran for office in 2016 telling protesters rallies to punch people who pay their bills. As president, he played a clip of a guy saying the only good Democrat is a dead Democrat. He said to the Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. He called Nazis at Charlottesville. No, let me finish. You're interrupting me, Piers. I need to finish my sentence. You finish yours. I'm on your show. I'm a guest. I'm answering. Let me get to I'm pointing out this is not two sides. What Donald Trump has said, your viewers need to hear this because you're not telling them this. Trump spent his entire presidency inciting violence against Ilhan Omar, George Soros, multiple members of Congress, people of color, right? He left office, right, having incited an insurrection which you condemned. He told him to go fight like hell. He said Mark Milley should be executed, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He mocked Paul Pelosi. I'm getting to it. He mocked Paul Pelosi for being hammered in the head.
He was wrong to do that. That was outrageous.
Executed. It's not about whether he was wrong, Piers.
Yes, exactly. So Mehdi Hasan's right here. It doesn't matter whether or not it's wrong, first off. Second of all, he keeps saying that he doesn't answer his questions, and he does this throughout the entire interview. But it's because Mehdi Hasan disagrees with the premise. He's saying both sides do it, and he's pointing out the Democrats, right? So his premise is, the Democrats are saying all of these bad things. The rhetoric is not good, and they need to tone it down. And Mehdi Hasan's point is, first off, that's not true. And if there is anybody that you should point out that the rhetoric that goes too far, it's the Republicans. And so Mehdi Hasan brings out all of those examples, and Piers tries to play like he didn't answer his question, but he's disagreeing with your premise. He's saying it's not both sides. There are no examples of Democrats. And maybe there might be some fringe examples, but it's very few, very, very few, barely a handful of Democrats that say outrageous stuff. And the main examples that Piers brings up is comparing Trump to Hitler and Biden's bullseye example. And we'll get to those a little later. But so for this clip, this part, he disagrees with the premise, and he does this throughout the entire thing, and Piers tries to act as though he doesn't answer his question, but he disagrees with your premise. And Piers just keeps ignoring the fact that he's pointing that out. So we're going to skip ahead. 23:10? Yes.
But just to be crystal clear, you have no problem with people on the left continuing to call Trump Adolf Hitler or compare him to Hitler?
I have no problem with Republicans like J.D. Vance calling Donald Trump Hitler if he talks like Hitler. No, I have no problem with that.
And what about people on the left, like including you?
I mean, should I not? Okay, Piers, I don't understand this question. If Donald Trump quotes Hitler, should I not say that? Should I censor
myself? I'm just saying, if you genuinely believe on the left that
you need to be clear with your question.
I'm trying to ask you.
I need to understand your question. Should I not say to people that Donald Trump just quoted Hitler? Should I say? No, you better not say that.
That's not what I said.
Calling him the new Hitler.
Okay, here's a perfect example of this. So this is the critical point, or critical question that Mehdi keeps bringing up to Piers that he never answers because it destroys his entire narrative. Piers keeps saying, is it okay to keep comparing Trump to Hitler? Mehdi's point is, if he keeps quoting Hitler, then yes, of course I'm going to say, oh, he's quoting Hitler. And he has fascist and authoritarian policies he wants to implement. So am I not able to make that comparison? He quotes him. He has these types of policies. Can I not make that comparison? Can I not say, oh, he's quoting Hitler here? Like, look what he's doing. Piers never answers that. He just keeps ignoring it and goes, should you compare? Well, it's critical to answer that question first, because if you think that it's fair to be able to point out that he quotes Hitler, then yeah, you could do that. So, but it destroys his whole premise, because his whole premise is, again, no, you shouldn't be comparing him to Hitler. But again, he doesn't want to answer that question because it destroys that. Because if if you can point out that he's quoting it, then, well, yeah, you just compared, and so it destroys his whole narrative, right? What else? I have my notes here. I want to make sure I give him. Yeah, so he's doing it again, where he's going back to what I said before, where he's trying to make it seem like because they point out that Trump quotes Hitler, right, and all this, that they're the same with the rhetoric, just like the Republicans. Throughout this entire interview, Mehdi Hasan brings up so many examples of the insane shit Republicans and specifically Trump has said, and he just completely ignores them and just keeps trying to ask the same question over and over and over again. Because Piers wants to ignore it. He doesn't want to acknowledge any of the things that the Republicans or Trump does and talk about those examples. But during this whole time, he just keeps pointing out, oh, but the Democrats, oh, but Biden, oh, but, and he even showed clips of Mehdi Hasan showing Trump quoting Hitler and going, oh, look at, you see what you guys are doing? It's like, well, what about the Republicans? He never brings it up. So we're going to keep playing it right here.
What I said,
then what should I do?
Should people on the left continue to compare Trump to Hitler in light of what happened to him last weekend? Do you think that is part of the violent rhetoric?
Last weekend is irrelevant, Piers. What's last weekend got to do with Trump's rhetoric? He was shot by a Republican registered voter.
Because if people genuinely get
we
told...
don't know the motives.
If people
you misled your viewers on Monday. You said he got shot because of the consequences of Biden's language. That's false, Piers. You should probably withdraw
I said
that.
it was partly to blame.
It's a false statement.
If you read the column properly, you would know that I said that
Not
Biden...
reading what you said on air.
Hang on.
The guy got shot because of the consequences of this kind of language. That's false. We don't know why
I said that the ratcheting up on all sides of violent rhetoric, on all sides, including by Biden, has played a role in somebody deciding they want to kill Trump. Right?
You don't know that. You don't know that. He could be a crazy school shooter type. We have no idea why this guy shot at Trump. He was a Trump supporter who shot at Trump. It's very confusing. We don't know why he did that.
But would you
exactly. So here he is. So ever since this shooting happened, Piers has been bringing up the Democrats and Biden's rhetoric and assuming that the reason why the shooter tried to assassinate Trump is because of the rhetoric on mainly, he says both sides, but that's just a way for him to be able to play off like he's just, he doesn't pick a side. He's just in between this. He's just pointing out both sides, and their wrongdoings or whatever. But ever since then, that's all he's talked about is Democrats and Biden's rhetoric. So let's be honest. You think it's because of Biden and the Democrats' rhetoric. But then we don't know why the shooter did what he did. We don't know why he tried to kill Trump. He's just assuming it's because of the rhetoric. And he's trying to give himself an out and say, no, it's both sides. But okay, then if it's both sides, why are you not bringing up the examples like Mehdi Hasan told you before? Why are you not bringing up the examples of the Republicans or Trump and their crazy, insane rhetoric that they've been saying? So again, it just falls apart. It doesn't make any sense. He's just really trying to push like it's the Democrats and Biden and their rhetoric, and just tries to like scoot away the Republican and Trump's rhetoric. Let's just ignore that. We're gonna skip a little bit ahead. Right here.
Like your new Hamas gotcha question. The substance of this, Piers, is that Trump has praised Nazis at Charlottesville, hosted a Nazi for dinner at his house, and quotes from Mein Kampf. You're telling me, the great free speech champion, I should not be allowed to point that out because someone like you will say, I'm calling him Hitler. No, I'm pointing out facts, Piers. If you don't like facts, well, what's the line your friend Ben Shapiro says? Facts don't care about your feelings.
They don't care about feelings at all. It's not about my feelings. It's about, I believe, the language on both sides.
You're bothered by a comparison.
I think the language on both sides has to stop, and I think the left should stop calling him Hitler.
Yeah. So again, he's ignoring the substance. This is what Piers keeps doing. He keeps trying to ignore what Trump has said in quoting Hitler. He keeps trying to ignore that. It doesn't matter that he kind of like acts like it doesn't happen. And then he keeps talking about, again, here he is assuming that it's the Democrats and Biden's fault for why the shooter did what he did. But why did he just say that? Oh, I'm scared that it ratcheting up is going to create violence. Well, you don't know why he did that. So why are you talking about it and saying, oh, it's, both sides, and it's Biden and the keeps bringing up Biden and the Democrats. But we don't know why. So again, there it is. He's trying to play into that, like I just explained earlier. Again, he keeps ignoring Mehdi Hasan's critical question that destroys his whole narrative. If he quotes him, If Trump quotes Hitler, why can you not point that out? He just like refuses to ever answer that. Yeah, so I don't know if I'm going to play it a little more.
You need to point, and you should point out to where Joe Biden has called for the execution of his opponents. Only one candidate running for president has called for the execution of his opponents. You have not called that out.
Exactly. He doesn't call it out. And that's all I'm going to show from this video. Watch the whole thing. It's great. Mehdi Hasan destroys Piers. I mean, his whole narrative, it just goes completely down the drain with what Mehdi Hasan had to say against it. There at the end is a critical point. He brings up a good example of Trump calling for the execution of his political opponents and other Republicans saying similar insane shit. But if he's saying it's both sides, like he claimed right there, then why is he not bringing up these examples? Why is he not showing other people? And in this interview, Mehdi Hasan brings up the example of Ben Shapiro when he interviewed him recently about this whole thing. And Mehdi Hasan points out, but wait, Ben Shapiro called Obama a fascist. Did you bring that clip up? But yet, when Mehdi Hasan gets brought into a show, he brings up the clips of him comparing, showing that he's quoting, Trump's quoting Hitler. He brings those up, but why is he not bringing up the other side? Well, wait a second. If it is both sides, like Piers claims that it is, and that's all he's doing, is just pointing out both sides' rhetoric and both need to calm down, then why didn't you do that to Ben Shapiro? Are you doing that with all your other guests, your conservative guests? I highly doubt it. But you do it with Mehdi Hasan. He did it with Destiny. He's doing it with all these other people, but not the Republicans. There was other Republicans on that one, on some of these other shows, like the one where he interviewed Destiny. Doesn't bring up Dave Rubin's tweets, and I'll probably make a video on that later, showing exactly this whole point. But yeah, he just doesn't. He ignores it. But why does he ignore it? The major thing that, that should not be the case when it comes to Trump is the fact that everybody sort of just ignores Trump's rhetoric, ignores the things he says, or they hear the things he says, which is really it. And they just go, it's just Trump. He's just, he says crazy shit, and whatever, it's just typical Trump. Like, who cares? A Democrat or Biden will say something not even 1% of what Trump says, and they'll go crazy. Oh, you can't say that. How dare you say this? You're going too far, and this and that. Trump gets hundreds, thousands of passes, thousands of them, for all of the crazy shit he says, and everybody just acts like it's not a big deal. We need to stop acting like it's not a big deal. Trump says so much crazy shit, and it should be unacceptable, and everybody should be pushing for him not to win. First off, he shouldn't even be able to run. But given the fact that he is able to run, unfortunately, we need to do everything we can to make sure he doesn't win. If Piers was, and Piers was, actually, if he was presented this, he might actually agree, but no, he doesn't. Mehdi Hasan had brought up so many examples, and he just didn't want to answer. He didn't want to respond to it. He just ignored it. Because I don't think he thinks he's like, well, it's whatever. It's Trump. Again, just excusing it. Just downplaying it. Whatever. It doesn't matter. What are some other things that I wanted to say? Oh, yeah. The bullseye quote. So, in this, Piers talks about the bullseye quote that Biden said. Biden said this in a call with donors. Let's stop acting like that was the same thing like all of the other crazy, violent things Trump has said. You're grasping at straws. It's so pathetic to be able to try to use that quote about Biden using the word bullseye when talking to donors, which we clearly know the context of what he's talking, like saying we need to focus on Trump and make sure we defeat him. And trying to point out like this is the same rhetoric and this is violent rhetoric. And it needs to stop. It's so embarrassing. There's another example that Mehdi Hasan brings up in this interview. He says, oh yeah, you're talking about comparing that Democrats are comparing Trump to Hitler. Well, what about when Trump called Biden the Gestapo? No response. No response. Is he gonna go on talking about how he called Biden the Gestapo? Is he ever gonna mention it? Is he gonna bring it up to other Republican or conservative guests on his show, and be like, "Hey, well, what about this? He's calling Biden the Gestapo. This is the violent rhetoric that might cause somebody to be able to shoot at someone at former or current in Biden presidential nominee or whatever." He isn't gonna bring that up, and he's not gonna bring that up. Yeah, so that's pretty much all the points that I wanted to show. There's many more. Go watch it. It's great. But that's pretty much all I wanted to cover. So, yeah. See ya.